Q2, damage and destruction.
We worked so hard on this house. We put everything we had into this house.
A vengeful summer storm slammed Shepherd, smashing windows, destroying siding, even leaving one family looking for a new place to live. Plus, bunker buster bombs.
We're very, very thankful to President Trump and the administration for the THAAD missile, anti-missile defense system, for the Aegis missile defense system.
If the United States decides to lend support in the Middle East, our military could do so in a very powerful way. The MTN 430 News starts right now. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday. Andrea's on assignment. She'll be back at 5:30. I'm Don Hudson. Shepherd is in cleanup mode right now after a severe storm rocked the community last evening. The damage is hard to miss. Shattered windows, shredded siding, and roofs stripped bare. But for one family with 2 young children, the storm didn't just rattle their home, it turned their world upside down. Our Charlie Kleps has the story of survival behind the wreckage.
In a matter of moments,
How did it happen so quick?
dark clouds covered the sky,
I didn't really know what was going to happen.
and as uncertainty filled Jordan Dalton's head, dangerously strong winds picked up speed.
I was just more scared, my daughter was with me, and last thing I want to happen is anything to my little girl.
It was at that moment that Dalton knew she needed to flee.
The wind started coming up pretty bad, so we rushed down to my grandma's house.
It was there that she took this video. What she didn't know is that it would be the last time she saw her house standing upright.
Not even 2 minutes later, the whole house just completely went.
This is the aftermath of that storm, where this home was ripped off of its foundation here and rolled 20 feet down the property. A devastating scene that feels impossible for Jordan and her husband Joe to stomach.
Put my heart and soul into this house. Every penny I had for the last 3 years.
Their home, which was nearing completion after more than 2 years of construction, now flipped upside down, crushing one of their vehicles and destroying nearly all of their belongings inside.
We went so much into debt just to get this house livable. And now it's just all gone.
On Tuesday, the Daltons were left salvaging what they could.
Move that!
Searching through the scraps of what they hoped would be their forever home.
It's like opening a fresh wound. Every time you see something that you cherished completely demolished, it's just ripping off the scab all over again.
A nightmare reality for this family and many others.
Everybody lost stuff, and everybody's homes got damaged.
Now hoping for help on their emotional and uncertain road to recovery.
It's hard to ask people for help in a situation like this because everybody's going through something.
In Shepherd, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Now, this cleanup could take days, it could take weeks, even months in some cases, as the storm produced more than a half a foot of hail as well. Take a look at some of these shots as it covered yards and parking lots, roads, and even the Shepherd High School football field, making it look more like, a snowy December day instead of a beginning a summer day. Nearly 8 inches of hailstones fell in less than an hour, creating a winter wonderland here at the beginning of summer. There's simply not enough time to show you all of the damage that the Shepherd community is dealing with right now. Homeowners suffered damage, so did a lot of farmers, as ranchers as well. Not only were crops and fields destroyed, some had expensive machinery damaged by this. Check out these images from the Stahl family, which saw their shop collapse on top of all that haying equipment that they had. Livestock also pummeled by hailstones. No word on whether any were seriously injured. Now that all those storms have moved out, what should we expect next? With a first look at the weather on this Tuesday, here's Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh.
We've got another round of storms developing this afternoon. You can see into the eastern plains quite a bit of thunder and lightning, some pockets where you see those little blue flickers into the mix. That means that there could be at least some small hail involved with some of those storms. And another round that's been moving through Stillwater, Sweetgrass counties down through Park County, Wyoming for you around Cody. At least a chance of a few thunderstorms, leaving us pretty quiet around the Billings area right now here in Yellowstone County. but there's still a possibility of a wave moving throughout the evening. But notice not much going on as we start looking over towards Idaho and areas in the Pacific Northwest. Temperatures in the 80s in Boise this afternoon, and also down into Utah. That warm air is moving this direction.
A suspect is now in custody after fleeing from law enforcement in Stillwater County. Columbus police said on social media the incident began shortly after 1 this morning when officers tried to make a traffic stop on a black Cadillac. They say that driver then took off at a high rate of speed and officers pursued. The vehicle then crashed in a field between Big Lake and Grass Lake Refuge, but the suspect was able to run away. Late this morning, though, law enforcement caught up with the suspect and no other details into this crime have been released. President Trump has insisted that the United States will not get directly involved in the conflict between Israel and Iran, but if the commander-in-chief did decide to lend additional support, B-2 planes carrying bunker-busting bombs could be an option. So far, the U.S. is the only country believed to be able to deliver that kind of bomb using the B-2 stealth bomber planes. Liz Landers has the story.
President Trump has insisted that the United States will not get directly involved in the conflict between Israel and Iran. But if the commander-in-chief did decide to lend additional support, B-2 planes carrying bunker-busting bombs could be an option. Iran relies on several laboratories and locations across the country for its nuclear program, including Natanz and Fordow. That nuclear fuel enrichment plant site, Fordow, is built deep into the side of a mountain. It would be difficult to attack and is protected by Iranian and Russian missile defense systems, though those may have already been partially hit in recent days. Now, this is where the United States possibly comes in. America's precision-guided massive ordnance penetrator bombs weigh 30,000 pounds and are designed to dig 200 feet or more below the surface before they explode. The bombs can also be dropped one after another, boring into a site. So far, the U.S. is the only country believed to be able to deliver that kind of bomb using the B-2 stealth bomber planes. The B-2 is only flown by the American Air Force, who has stated that they have successfully configured and tested B-2 planes to deliver 2 of those bunker-busting bombs. Israel's ambassador was asked directly if they can destroy that site without U.S. help.
The help that we've asked from the United States is confined to defensive posture. We're very, very thankful to President Trump and the administration for the THAAD missile, anti-missile defense system, for the Aegis missile defense system, but it's only in a defensive posture. We have a number of contingencies which will enable us to deal with Fordow. Not everything is a matter of, taking to the skies and bombing from afar.
At the end of March, satellite imagery showed American stealth bomber planes on the runway of a U.S. military installation in the Indian Ocean called Diego Garcia. The U.S. uses that as a joint military base with the United Kingdom, as it is a strategic location that could allow the U.S. military to fly those planes and strike Iran. This stealth bomber has been used by the U.S. in recent months to target Houthi rebels in Yemen who continue to attack American naval ships in the region. While the B-2s were at Diego Garcia in the spring, it is believed that they have relocated back to their home base in Missouri. The United States Pentagon does not confirm the locations of those B-2 planes. Liz Landers, Scripps News Group, Washington.
55 attorney generals agreed to a $7.4 billion settlement with bankrupt drug maker Purdue Pharma. Now, the agreement was reached Monday with the attorneys general of all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and 4 U.S. territories involved. The payment is intended to resolve thousands of lawsuits alleging Purdue's OxyContin created and fueled a nationwide opioid addiction crisis. According to officials, members of the Sackler family, the owners of Purdue, confirmed their plan to move forward with the settlement. The settlement in principle is the nation's largest to date, with individuals responsible for the opioid crisis. The settlement also ends the Sacklers' control of Purdue and their ability to sell opioids in the United States. While the Trump administration has ramped up ICE raids, concerns continue around the impact that could have on agricultural businesses as well as the hotel and restaurant industry. While the president has paused arrests in those areas, he has now reversed that pause As Maya Rodriguez explains, that's causing some anxiety for some U.S. employers which rely on that migrant labor force as the president doubles down on delivering on campaign promises.
The Trump administration's immigration policy reversing course when it comes to several industries across the country. The Department of Homeland Security now says it will conduct immigration raids at farms, hotels, and restaurants, all places where undocumented migrants may be working.
We're going to look everywhere, but I think the biggest problem is the inner cities.
DHS going further, telling Scripps News, quote, worksite enforcement remains a cornerstone of our efforts to safeguard public safety, national security, and economic stability. Immigration advocates say the raids could further impact the economy, including, for example, higher prices for food and construction. Muzaffar Chahishti is with the nonpartisan Migrant Policy Institute.
Those are the sectors of the economy that will be affected most if there is heavy enforcement machinery that plucks out large parts of the workforce out of them.
Major players in the agriculture and hospitality industries initially appeared to sway the White House to spare their workplaces, but no longer, with President Trump posting on Truth Social over the weekend that changes were coming. Jenny Murray is the CEO and president of the National Immigration Forum.
And American businesses, American consumers, and the economy is going to also get the short end of the stick on that as well.
According to the American Immigration Council, mass deportations could reduce the U.S. gross domestic product by as much as 6.8%. Maya Rodriguez, Scripps News Group, Washington.
The at-home store here in Billings, which is in the same complex as the former Costco on King Avenue, is now set to close its doors. The home decor and furniture retailer with more than 200 locations across the United States announcing today it is filing for bankruptcy. As part of the restructuring agreement, it intends to eliminate $2 billion in debt and provide $200 million in capital to aid with the restructuring process. The Texas-based company has been struggling for months amid rising tariffs and entered a forbearance agreement with lenders after missing an interest payment back on May 15th.